Alright, YouTube, another update on the Christopher Dorner material that's been circulating around. A lot of weird coincidences, I suppose, or you could call them miracles happening right now with this case. Things that don't exactly add up. They don't make sense at all. The first thing being, and a lot of people have pointed this out, and local media is actually questioning the police there, what the hell is up. They found his ID on the 7th. In San Diego. They found his wallet that contained his ID. Apparently he tried to, hijack a ship there. Now they're saying they also found his wallet in the cabin along with the body. Now this is, certain news groups are reporting they found a body. Certain groups are saying they haven't confirmed anything. Certain groups are saying, well, it's Dorner. Certain groups are saying it's not Dorner. We've got no clue at this point. The details of this case are so confused, you have to wonder whether it's the result of media and police ineptitude, or whether it's the result of, oh, we told one lie, now we've got to tell 1,000 more lies to cover it up. I'm going to go with the latter, because traditionally when you look at cases like this, where there's this much misinformation going around, and this much that doesn't make sense, it's because it is being covered up. Actively. They're actively covering something up at the moment. We're not sure exactly what that is. My thoughts, of course, from before, Dorner knows more than he let on. There may have been other material other than his manifesto that was released that got deleted quickly enough so nobody has it. We're not exactly sure. Of course, maybe they killed someone in the cabin and found out it's not Dorner and they're trying to cover that up too, in hopes that nobody will notice and they'll get Dorner in the meantime while they're busy covering up that evidence. Or it could be that it is Dorner. Maybe there was another person there and they don't want that going out. We're not sure. But the thing with the wallet is insane. Apparently he was carrying 2 wallets with 2 identical driver's licenses around. That makes no sense. It also doesn't make sense that, look at it this way. They burned the cabin down. Alright, and we know Fox just said, the police are saying they burned the cabin. It wasn't, Dorner didn't set a fire or whoever was in there. The cabin was burned deliberately, and I was listening to the police scanner at the time of the raid. They burned the cabin down. Not sure why. Not exactly sure why they couldn't. I mean, Dorner was supposedly holed up inside. They had the areas completely surrounded. They didn't need to burn the cabin down. If anything, that's detrimental. It could burn evidence. It could, mess up everything. So I'm not sure why they did that. How did his driver's license survive such an inferno? They're saying, well, on the news, they're saying, wow, it's burning completely. It's on a big hot fire. They can't even check it yet. It's just completely gone. The cabin's turned to ash. How did a plastic driver's license survive that sort of heat? Note to everyone, plastic will melt it doesn't have to be literally lit on fire, it just has to get hot enough. If the body was burned to cinders, you'd think that the driver's license probably wouldn't have survived the blaze. Not sure about a leather wallet, they might have found remnants of it, but literally, it doesn't make sense that this sort of evidence would survive. Certainly not in a readable form. Maybe, you'd have a little card covered in a thick layer of ash that's no longer readable. It just doesn't make sense. The media reporting of this doesn't make sense. Last night it came out, well, they found a body and it's Dorner. Then they redacted that. Oh, well, they found a body, they're not sure if it's Dorner. Then they're like, oh, they haven't confirmed whether there's a body or not in the cabin. The LAPD's official Twitter feed is going out and saying that they haven't confirmed anything, at least through their office. San Bernardino's police saying the same basic thing, that it hasn't been confirmed yet. And yet you've got these media individuals saying, well, Dorner was killed in the cabin. Here's another interesting point. The LA Times was the first one to break that the ID had been found in San Diego, down where Dorner went to buy, apparently, scuba gear and mucked around for a couple days before heading back north. Now that story is gone. It's actually been altered. It's now a stub article that redirects you to a stub article that mentions nothing about that wallet and ID being found in San Diego. Now, of course, those of us who read the story at the time remember quite clearly it said, yeah, they found his wallet. It had his ID cards in it. So this really seems a bit odd. It also seems odd that the police tell the media to back off the scene, and then suddenly 5 minutes later it's up in flames. Of course, we now know, again, the police set that fire. Did they not want the media to get too close so people wouldn't see what was going on? Did they drone the building? That's also a possibility. There was a no-fly zone in the area for some time. The helicopters moved off behind the mountains and couldn't get a good view until the cabin was already well in flames. You've got another strange occurrence. They were saying that Dorner's guns that he was using silencers and that they couldn't hear shots. That's what you heard on the police, the streaming scanners, that they couldn't hear his shots. He was using a silencer. But then they magically heard one shot, supposedly of him killing himself, before they lit the building up. And that's also interesting. If they had heard one shot from inside, wouldn't they give time to say, well, he's been silencing his shots, now all of a sudden we magically hear one shot, let's wait for another couple of minutes before firing it up. They claim that they were using tear gas canisters, and we're not sure whether it was an accidental blaze because they weren't using the tear gas properly, or whether it was intentionally set. But we do have, and there are several videos, I'll put the links to one in the description, where they say, light that motherfucker up, burn him down, he's a loony, something about him being a lunatic or a psychopath. This case makes less and less sense and looks more and more like Waco, that reasonable individuals understand. For instance, there's footage of Waco. This is before the internet was interconnected the way it is nowadays. This is back in the early to mid-90s. The internet's mainly read-only pages and really shitty, 256 pixel images. Back then, we had the footage. You could see the tank roll into the side of the building, fire a jet of flame into it, back up and go away. We know that Waco was, again, the government burned down a building full of women and children primarily, and then bulldozed it to cover up all the evidence. My thought is they'll bulldoze this cabin too, and within a couple of days there won't be anything there. It'll be as though it never existed. They'll cement it over and build something else there. It also seems a little bit strange that Dorner was able to take up residence across from a police outpost without being detected. He was right across from a police outpost, and all of this time, for the last few days, he never got detected. Here's another strange aspect. Dorner goes to San Diego, and as the redacted article now, it's redacted now, but formerly claimed, he went there, bought scuba gear, and left his ID after trying to hijack a boat. Thinking probably he would have gone out to sea, gotten into his gear, gone underwater, swam to Mexico. So it's obvious he wanted to go to Mexico to escape this, this situation. It's obvious. Where's the scuba gear? Have they recovered the scuba gear from the cabin or from his the vehicle he hijacked before? We're not sure about that. Also, why would Dorner have bought scuba gear for the obvious intent of swimming to Mexico? He can't cross the border physically. He could never have gotten across the border. So you can swim, go out a mile to the ocean, swim out, swim to another boat, and then boat it back in, hijack another boat if you know what you're doing. It actually wouldn't be that difficult, I would assume, to do that. It's probably less patrolled than the other side, the Atlantic side. I remember being down there myself in the South Padre Island area. There's, Coast Guard and border control everywhere. Not so on the other side, apparently. Tijuana is right next to San Diego. The two, if the wall weren't there, they'd be conjoined sister cities, essentially. Why would he then head back north? On the roads, you've got roadblocks all over the place. Why would he drive back north, back to the Los Angeles area when he's already within a mile of the border? That makes absolutely no sense. You look at the aspects of this case, and you can see they simply do not add up. Dorner would have to be completely mentally confused and not know what the hell he was doing. And yet you see, what we do know is that he was planning to cross the border. He still had his weapons. He still had probably body armor. He was cognizant enough to take hostages at one point. It looks like all of this was well planned. Burns his truck, everything he can do to cover up evidence. It's obvious the man wasn't completely confused, or isn't if he's still out there somewhere. My thoughts are this. Do the police and media think that the public is completely stupid? I think that's what they honestly want us to believe. Again, though, you go onto the comment areas of any story about Dorner, whether it's on a right-wing forum or a left-wing forum or mainstream news or, more of a smaller alternative news or a blog, anything, the top comments are all in support of what Dorner has done. People have woken up to the idea that the police and the government really aren't looking out for them. I think part of it's because, we now know the LAPD injured at least 4 people in their search for Dorner. At one time, they had a higher hit count than he did. And that's assuming that the person that they supposedly found burned in the cabin is even Dorner. For all we know, he could have killed somebody else, put their body in there, and escaped in the 20 minutes between when the fight happened with the first 2 deputies and when the backup showed up. That's also a possibility that I'm sure the LAPD and San Bernardino are actually looking into. At one time, when they had this cabin hold up, there were police cars reportedly screeching off the mountain to go to some other location. Maybe they got a tip that Dorner, actually he escaped, he's running through the woods, or he's scuba diving in Big Bear Lake or something. We don't know. There are too many unknowns in this case at the time to really draw any conclusions at all, other than to say the LAPD is, not the LAPD, but the media and the police at large are obviously lying. Because they say that at least a few media outlets have said, we've ID'd the body, it's Dorner. We found his driver's license and wallet. Well, you already had that days ago. It boils down to simple mathematical probability. What's the probability that he was carrying around 2 wallets with 2 different driver's licenses? Probably not that good. What's the probability that he would go to San Diego for the obvious purpose of scuba diving across the border and then suddenly decide, no, I'm going to go back north into the mountains of all places? An area with a smaller number of roads that are easily blocked off. For no purpose whatsoever. I would say the odds of that are fairly low. Why is the media reporting about 10 different versions of what happened? At most, one of them can actually be true. We found Dorner. We found a body, not sure it's Dorner. We found his wallet here. No, we found his wallet there. The blaze was set by Dorner. The blaze was set by the San Bernardino police. The blaze was accidental. At most, one version of events is true. The truth is singular. So anyone reporting anything else is misinformed or lying. I like to think that the media isn't quite so stupid that they would misreport that magnitude of information. Because you go to any major news outlet, you've got completely different versions of events. So rather than assume that they're all completely and utterly inept, you have to assume instead that the police simply don't have their information in hand. Maybe you've got leaks of information that hasn't been made public yet, although it's going public anyway, but then you've got the problem of who's leaking it and why does the information change every few hours. It doesn't make sense. And again, if something doesn't make sense, it's usually because it's not true. I'm not saying that the police are lying to cover something up, although that is also a possibility. It could be they're just completely and utterly inept and have no idea what's going on. Or it could be that the media in this country has gotten to such a low point that their ineptitude leads them to report 20, 30 different versions of events, despite the fact that they've got a direct earpiece to the police officers that are involved, to the higher-ups and to the officials. They've got a direct earpiece right pressed to their mouth at any given time, waiting for that new juicy detail to put into their blogs. It's just a circle suck at this point. Nobody knows what's going on. All we know is that Apparently Dorner carries around 2 wallets with sets of identification cards, that these cards are now fireproof, and that the LAPD, San Bernardino, may or may not have lit up the cabin. We're not sure of anything, in other words. We have no clue what's going on. Usually you've got a fairly clear chain of events. You've got fairly clear reporting with any reasonable case. In this case, though, Dorner may as well have gotten onto the back of a unicorn and flown away to the moon. And it would make just as much sense as any of the reports that are out there right now. And with material disappearing, it's even more mysterious. Disappearing off of various news articles. Apparently they think people can't screen cap it and then put it on their own blog. The media, obviously, and the police haven't caught up to modern technology. They're still thinking, I guess, in terms of the late 1990s, before these things were common. Now, of course, it's all over the internet. And what are people saying? The police are corrupt. The media has no clue what it's talking about. So give us a bone here. LAPD, San Bernardino, the governor of California, anybody, media officials. What the hell is going on? It just makes no sense. Quick update, basically everything's screwed up. Peace out.